How do these fools explain our call for more individual responsibility and accountability for an individual's actions? Well, the answer to all those questions, folks, is they can't, they don't, and they won't. Because to do so will force them to admit that they are wrong, and that socialism is wrong. And we are not racists and bigots and terrorists. In fact, exactly the opposite is true. For what we want to give to the population of the world is freedom, responsibility, a sense of self-worth, value, satisfaction, real education, and installation of the truth. What they, on the other hand, wish to bring into the world is total and complete absolute control over every single person upon this earth, from birth until death, for every single moment, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year of their lives. Shackled in slavery and a cashless system of debt to a computer forever, where you have to have a card to travel or to get a job or to obtain medical care, where you cannot own even the simplest rudimentary weapon to defend your person and your property, which, by the way, you will have none of, since private property will not be allowed to be owned in the New World Order. In fact, you really don't own it now, although you think you do. How can Chip Burlett, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, the United Nations, the World Federalist, and all the other socialists and socialist organizations call themselves freedom-loving Americans when in fact they support the emerging Gestapo police state and incessantly call for more governmental control over every single facet of our lives? How many of you have really thought about that? How can these people call themselves freedom-loving Americans when they call those who are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution for the United States of America racists and fascists and terrorists, when in fact, ladies and gentlemen, the Constitution is the only document in the history of the world that ever set men and women, including blacks, free? How can they claim to be freedom-loving Americans and call those who are sworn to protect and defend the Constitution for the United States of America racist and fascist and terrorists when the Constitution is the government and the supreme law of this land? If we, who are sworn to protect and defend that document, that government, that law, for the protection of all peoples, of all races and religions, are racist and fascists and terrorists, what, pray tell, does that make them? At the very least, ladies and gentlemen, it makes them guilty of treason. They are, in fact, traitors. They are the agents of change for international socialism, commonly known as change agents. I'm letting you think about that for a little bit. Do you really have a grasp upon what I'm trying to teach you tonight? Many people write me letters and say they're thankful for my ministry. This is a ministry, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a ministry of freedom. Freedom. For all peoples, all religions, all races, and I can only bring it to you because I personally believe in God. And I know that all beliefs must be free will choice beliefs, or this whole process, this whole game is nothing but a joke. Therefore, I give you, because God gave me your right to your personal choice. Anyone who truly understands freedom will do that. Anyone who will not do that does not, has not ever understood truly what freedom really means, what the founding fathers really were trying to give to us and to the world. Those who are trying to bring into existence the New World Order know nothing of freedom, care nothing for freedom, and will not ever allow you a free will choice about anything. With freedom comes a great deal of responsibility, personal responsibility. You are responsible for your actions, and I am responsible for mine. Which means that if you decide to take a walk on a cold day along a sidewalk that you know is covered with a sheet of ice and you slip and fall, how dare you sue the city? How dare you sue the city? How can they do all these things, ladies and gentlemen? How will they do them? Why have they been doing them? The answer is very simple. It's because Chip Burlett and the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League and a lot of the highest degrees of Freemasonry, the Order of the Rosy Cross, and all of the rest of them. I could spend an hour naming off all of these so-called fraternal organizations. The socialists and socialist organizations are change agents of international socialism, and they are, in fact, fascist. If you don't believe it, look at the legislation that they are passing through the Congress. Look at what is happening in this country. We are coming under a police state, the likes of which Hitler's Germany never saw. There is in this country being promulgated a Gestapo, which will bring a new definition to the word terror. They are change agents of international socialism, and they are in fact the fascists. They are in fact the Nazis. Chip Burlett and all of those of his ilk are the real Nazis, and who, if they are successful in their efforts, will usher into the world the most oppressive and unescapable system of slavery under a totalitarian socialist world government that this world has ever known. They are internationalist socialists, and care not one iota for the Constitution, individual liberties, freedom, or the principles and ideals upon which this nation was founded. And many of them are Jews. And that absolutely amazes me, for aside from England, this has been the only other country that has ever welcomed Jews as whole and complete citizens and has given them a home, opportunity, and wealth. And has protected them from persecution and continues to do so to this day. You see, it is the promise. These people are trained by their leaders, their rabbis, to be professional victims. And I'm talking about the ghetto Jews. They are lied to and manipulated, and they are people just like the rest of us, and if you were in their shoes, you would behave in exactly the same manner. They are told by their leaders that the world is their enemy, that you and I are their enemy, and it is not true. Joseph Goebbels would truly be proud of Chip Burlett, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has never done anything whatsoever to help poor people with legal representation in the South or anywhere else, or with any other type of help. It is a sham, a scam, a con. Through which they collect money to vilify Americans, to vilify the Constitution, to vilify patriotism, to vilify freedom and bring about oppressive laws, the police state. The Anti-Defamation League engaged in the manipulation of Jews and spying for foreign governments and outright treason. Not to mention the fact that they have been caught on many occasions promulgating the racist, anti-Semitic events which causes the Jews to empty their pockets into the coffers of the Anti-Defamation League. Let me say that again so you'll understand it. Remember, Jews are people just like everyone else who have been lied to and manipulated by organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, which is engaged in lying to Jewish people and everyone else, in specifically the manipulation of Jews in order to bring about oppressive laws and the New World Order, and spying for foreign governments and outright treason and criminal activity. A more proper name for this organization would be the Defamation League, for that is truly what they are engaged in. And all other manifestations of socialism that are at work to destroy the United States of America. How is it, ladies and gentlemen, that Chip Burlett and his cohorts do not know that the first thing socialist and communist regimes do when they gain the reins of power is to execute the intelligentsia that brought them to power? How is it that all these Marxists in our universities and colleges can promote Marxist socialism and expect to survive in light of socialism's terrorist history and its record of persecuting those people who are bringing them to power? How is it, ladies and gentlemen, that the Anti-Defamation League screams, yells, and begs for gun control, knowing all the while that if the Jews in Germany had possessed guns and had formed militias, they would never have been thrown into ovens or labor camps. And how is it that they have been able to maintain the manipulation of the Jews in that regard even unto this day? That they actually believe that if they disarm everybody, they'll be safe. Well, they won't. Because I happen to know from my research of those who are bringing about the New World Order that they intend to completely obliterate from the face of the earth all existing religions, nation states, and free peoples. You see, Jews will be eliminated right along with Christians and the followers of the nation of Islam, along with all of those people whom they call useless eaters. You see, socialism has scammed the oppressed peoples of the world into believing that socialism offers them relief and a future utopia upon this earth. And it is a lie. How is it that in the face of the research done by the Jews for the preservation of firearms ownership and Aaron Zellman, that Jews do not know that weapons control has always been followed by genocide in every instance that it has occurred in the history of the world? There's a book that I want you to read, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, what you heard tonight is my original research in writing. Belongs to me. I wrote it. I take full credit and responsibility for every word. It is the truth, whether you like it or not. But I want you to find this book if you can and read it. I have no idea what year it was published. But it's called Karl Marx, Racist. And it was written by Nathaniel Weil, W-E-Y-L, a Jew. Karl Marx was also a Jew who hated Jews, blacks, Slavs, and the common working man. I believe that the reason that he hated these people was because of his own failures. Because he was an abject failure in everything that he ever attempted in his entire life. This book takes exactly, word for word, from the writings of Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and others, the proof, the absolute proof of where socialism came from and what it is really all about. And it's not even remotely close to what you think it is about. And that's why no socialist nation or regime that has ever come to power anywhere in the world has ever fulfilled the dream of the socialists. Over the past 3 decades, much has been written about the racist views of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and why it is that nobody knows about these views is beyond my understanding. Most of this literature has been devoted to demonstrating that Marx, though of rabbinical descent on both sides of his family, was a fanatical anti-Semite. More limited attention has been given to the fact that the private correspondence of Marx and Engels is filled with contempt for Negroes. In fact, their common expression for Negro was nigger. Marx was a hate-obsessed man of rage and envy, whose contempt for the common man knew absolutely no bounds, and who detested Jews, blacks, and Slavs. He and Engels, in their writings, went so far, ladies and gentlemen, as to advocate wars of extermination against Slavic peoples and the destruction of Russia. Can you imagine that? Don't miss tomorrow night, because I'm going to quote from this book. I'm going to read from